This is the watercolor field set that I chose for our class. And the reason I did is, first of all, it just saves you a lot of trouble trying to find, the right palette, the right pigments. This is very well thought out. It's by Winsor Newton. This is a company that's been around for a very long time. And so I trust their quality. They're Cotman Watercolors. That's their student grade. For our intents and purposes, as good as the professional grade. And it has 14 pans inside it. And I'm going to open this up and show you why I really like this setup. So as you can see, when a lot of times, here I'll show you my own set, these are what's considered a full pan, like these, and then these little guys are half pans, and they come covered up, so we're going to have to open them up. But before I do so, I just want to show you what's really nice is each one, it'll tell you its permanence and the pigment number. Unfortunately, some places just go with a marketing name, and it's not the actual information that you need when you're looking up what you're using, because with watercolors, it's really important to know what pigments you're dealing with. But on the back here, we have lemon yellow hue. That's their marketing name, but that's PY 175. We have a cadmium yellow hue, and the reason they're calling them hues is, especially with the cadmiums, is they don't use actual cadmium pigments because those aren't great for your health or the environment. So instead, they've mixed in PY 97 and PY 65. And later on, if I have some time, I'll actually write out what those are instead of just yellow hue. It's a mix of two fairly good transparent yellows. We have cadmium red hue, and that's PR 149 and PR 255. Alizarin crimson hue, which is PR 179. Permanent rose. I think this was actually one of the main factors for me choosing this, because this is one of my favorite pigments. It's a great mixer, beautiful, very permanent color. It's PV 19. Ultramarine, same thing. This is a stalwart pigment for blues. It's beautiful. It doesn't stain, so it's easy to lift. And that's PB 29. Cerulean blue hue, that's PB 15, which is phthalo blue, if I recall. It might be a formulation of that. So that is a little bit more of a stainer, but it can be a beautiful, cooler blue, whereas ultramarine is a warmer blue. And then we have Viridian hue. Viridian is a lovely green that you don't have to mix, but this particular one isn't Viridian. It is PG 7, which is a phthalo green, and I'm sure it approximates the original Viridian very well. Original Viridian, its real big drawback is that it dries and gets very crumbly in your palette, so I'm guessing when they formulated this, they chose that as a good beginner substitute, and possibly even a little less expensive. But because it's a phthalo, it's a staining pigment, just like the cerulean blue hue that they added here. So both of these are the ones you're going to have to watch out for. They might stain your paper, and it's a little harder to lift, but they probably will play well with these others once you learn that those two have the stronger strengths. Sap green is another one formulation that varies from different companies, and the one that this one currently has is a mix of yellow, green, and an earth pigment. So it's PY 39, PG 36, and PR 101. And that'll be a nice green if it matches up to the regular sap greens that Winnie Newton does. Then there's burnt sienna, which is a nice earthy color. That's PR 101. Burnt umber, which is a mix of PBR 7 and PY 42, which is interesting. Sometimes it's just PBR 7. And then these two are the workhorses of any landscapes I find. Then we have Payne's Gray, and that's another one that mixes differently depending on which company you're dealing with. This one has a bit of black, PBK7, and then we have a bit of ultramarine blue. See how it says PB29? It's the same as this, and PB15. So we got two blues, and we have the brown mixed together. And that's more of a convenience color. You don't want to rely too much on that one, but it is nice when you want to darken something very quickly in the field, and I'm guessing that's why that's in the kit. Now finally, we have these two here, Ivory Black and Chinese white. And this is controversial. It made me, almost reconsider choosing this kit, but the reason being, not because, you can never use black or white in your watercolors, like some people will get very dogmatic about that, but as a beginner, you got, especially if you come from a different kind of paint like oil or acrylic, there's a temptation to use the black to darken your paints or the white to lighten them, and that will completely kill the transparency, that lovely clearness that you get with watercolor. And so these are what I would consider special effects only. And if you feel that you're too tempted, if you're an oil painter to, or other, to keep using it, just take them out. Like, don't even keep them in there and put something else right here. Oh, and I forgot to mention the little brush that comes with it. I was pleasantly surprised to see the size of the brush that came with this. Usually with these tiny field kits, you get like the tiniest, most useless brush ever. This one, it is small, I'll give it that, but it's got enough to it that it will be able to hold some water. And it's a number 5 Cotman brush. And I've used Cotman brushes before. They're perfectly serviceable. And to let you know, when you do get these, don't try to put this back into here. You'll end up splaying the bristles. So once it's out, take it and put it under some nice warm water just up to here. Don't get the rest of it wet. And just to get, because they put some kind of coating on the bristles, and once you get them warm, just a little, not hot, with some water, it should wash out. And you can see this comes to a nice little point. And yeah, this won't be our primary brush for the class, but for your fine details or most likely signing your name, this one will be great. All right, so actually let me open these up. What you need is a little pair of scissors, because it's a little mystifying at first if you've never, worked with one of these before, or if you've worked with one of those old school sets like a Prang set or Crayola set where the pans are oval and they're already set up. These are more professional in that they're little half pans. Like I explained before, you have full pans and then you have half pans. And these are great if you're out in the field, but see how it comes with it already in there. So we'll take that and very carefully open that up. And I'm just going to show you how I open this one because there'll be a long video if I show them all in real time. So, but there, you see that? And oh, look, see how it falls out? Now don't let that alarm you, because this is all dried out. Once you start adding a little bit of water to these over time, they will become stuck in there. Underneath though, it might jiggle around. And so what you can do is get a bit of gallery tack or blue tack and put to the bottom of that. And I'll show you that in just a second. And oh, that's nice. It actually tells you, it prints on the outside in case you can't remember which one's which. So that's a nice addition. So we'll put that there and we'll do the rest. As I kind of figured what would happen is some of these pop in really well, and then others, as you can see, for whatever reason, sometimes this happens with these little plastic pan sets. So you don't despair if it doesn't, because there's these little grooves, I don't know if you can see that, and that's what you press into to get them to stay. You can even do that without the pigment. But if you're finding that they're kind of jumping for some reason, like these two especially, you get a bit of gallery tack or blue tack, which is this stuff you can get at a hardware store. But if you're taking the class with me personally, don't worry, I will bring some with me. And so what we'll do is we'll just take a teeny tiny amount, squish it on the bottom there, really flat as you can make it. And we'll just put it right in there. And that will keep it from jiggling, because that can be annoying. And I'll show you why, because what's nice about this set is it is portable and you can use it like a handheld palette. So what you do, once you get all these in there, and like I said, it'll jiggle a little bit initially, but once they start being used, the pigment will settle And so this part that's jiggling won't jiggle, and then the plastic, like I said, is fixable with a teensy weensy bit of blue tack stuck to the bottom, like that. Here, this is how I would recommend adding that water. Just get your brush once you've, rinsed it out, and just use a few drops of water in each well, and just kind of drop. And if you see how the water is going in there, and you don't have to drown the whole thing, but just get enough water so about, a third of the way fills up the bottom. And what that'll do is when it dries, it'll make sure those little bits of dried paint will stick to the bottom of the well, and you don't have to worry about it falling out. So just do that, and it should stay along with the gallery tack. It's a little bit of work to do up front, but you'll be glad you did it later. So if you accidentally drop this, these won't all fall out. Just make sure you clean out your brush between each pan, and that will become second nature if you're not used to doing that already. And be real careful with the staining ones, like this one here, the cerulean blue hue, because once that gets on the plastic, it will probably start to stain it a little bit over time. But there's a fix for that, and I can show you that later. And see, this is what happens if you don't put in that gallery tack and it's not flush. See how it wiggles? So we'll fix that one after this one's done. And typically I'll go from the lightest to the darkest, and I normally don't have white, so I forgot to do the white. And see how the water's gotten a little bit murky in between? So what I'll do is I'll clean this out, and that way the white will stay pristine. All right, and as you can see, it's not even fully dry yet, and already there's no more rattling. So we'll just let that dry. So here's the cool thing about this set. So not only does it have a few different mixing wells at the top of the lid, but there's also a little secret. Take this out, this little cup, and you can very gently pull this out, and you can adjust it for however big your hand is. But see how it has these extra 4 wells to mix in? You just take that, and oh look, voila. So now, some people, I've heard them get a little bit confused as to what this extra piece is for. I think ostensibly it's to put a little bit of water in to mix. But as you know, if you know, unless you're working really, really tiny, you're probably going to need a little bit more water than this. So you can either just dispense with it and not use it, or what I would choose to do is put it in there and use a little bit of water to clear out your brush, or you can use this to mix another amount of paint in, so it's like another well, basically. And I like that idea. And what's also nice is if you are a lefty, check it out, it will go on this side, which I think was really thoughtful for my left-handed friends. And of course, if you don't want to use it in your hand, you can just put it like that. And even if you don't need all of these, maybe you just need 2 extra. You can go like that, or you can dispense with that all together and just keep it like that. And I don't know if you noticed, I was a little confused initially. There's an arrow right here. I don't know if you can see that, but I believe what that means is it's a way to, a lot of times when you start using this over time, it gets kind of grummy and you need to wash it. And so there's a little line right here, and you line that up, or not. There it goes. Yeah, like that. Ta-da! So that way, and I checked, I don't think there's another way to attach it or anything like that. It's primarily just so you can clean it, and then you can put it back together. Once again, line it up very carefully so you don't, yeah. So it really does just go right to that point, to this point, not down to here, but exactly to the arrow. And there you go. course, I'm of the opinion the more you do stuff like that with plastic, the more brittle it will become over time from that bending. So I think that's only like worst case scenario, you really need to clean it. Overall, like I said, I'm just really pleased with it. It's got areas, you know, for a warm and cool of each of the primaries, plus some extras, because I think that, you know, having a completely limited palette is great if you are just learning color theory, but sometimes when you're in a hurry and you're, you know, in the field, you don't have time to mix every single color. And I think this is the bare minimum, at least for myself, that I like to have when I don't know what I might be painting. The only thing is, you know, I wouldn't necessarily have put these two in, but that's the nice thing about this modular system is you can pop out and put in whatever colors you want. You can even arrange them to what you would like. I also like the fact that these have these nice little spaces in between, because a lot of field kits, they cram them all together, you know, kind of like what I've got here. And unless you're really careful, you know, the paints can get mixed in with each other, and that can be a little bit of a problem. So I kind of like this if you're just starting out, that this keeps it nice and clean and easy to access and keeps the warm and the cool on either side. So there you have it. Nice little kit. Once again, I recommend it because it's Winsor Newton, good quality. And actually also, if I haven't mentioned this before, it's fairly affordable. A lot of these, you know, would easily cost, you know, $80 to $90 for all the different pigments if you get professional pigments. And even with the student, it can get up there. I got this whole set for $17 US. And I think there's other sets that are more, but for whatever reason, this one's still available and it's at a very decent price point if you're just starting out, but you want some good quality pigments. All right, well, hopefully that's helpful. If you have any more questions, you can always email me or call me up or talk to me in class.